Hello, and welcome back to Storytime with Eric Zimmer. I've gotten through all the Roald Dahl books, I know, but now I have something else to show you. Something I got this past Christmas, which I think will delight many of you, considering how many die-hard Disney fans there are out there, like myself. This is called Pocket Full of Colors, The Magical World of Mary Blair, Disney Artist Extraordinaire, by Amy Guglielmo and Jacqueline Torville, and illustrated by Bridget Barringer. Just so you know, for those who don't know, Mary Blair was a background artist at Disney for many years, and she happened to be one of the first women who worked there too. Most of the women who worked at Disney during the golden age of cinema, the 1930s and 1940s, were ink and paint artists who painted by hand the animation cells for movies. But Mary Blair was part of the crew that got credited in the opening credits, of course, as a background artist. And this is her story of what her life was like at Disney. And before and after, of course. So you ready? Alright, let's begin. Under a wide blue sky, on a red dirt road, in a lemon-yellow house, there lived a little girl named Mary. Don't ask me what her maiden name was, I don't know. Other children collected marbles or dolls, but Mary collected colors of every shade and every hue. One day, Mary's parents announced they were moving out west. As she waved goodbye to the yellow house, Mary tucked her friend Lemon in her pocket, which looks nothing more than several strands of Rapunzel's hair, if you ask me. Mary would miss the happy home, but she had new colors to collect. She was born in 1911, so that's why everything looks like the late 1910s, early 1920s here, judging by the car and the way they dress. Driving across the sun-bleached desert, Mary spied Russet, Taupe, and Sienna. When she arrived in California, she glimpsed the azure ocean and found groves of golden fruit dripping from viridia trees. An orchard full of apple trees. In the city, she discovered steel gray buildings and mauve tinted skies. Mary opened her sketchbook. She mixed her paints. She would save these shades for just the right time. Looks like these are beautiful shades of color, too. What do you think? Yeah. When she was older, Mary went to art school. She met Lee. His full name was Lee Blair. They got married, hence the name Mary Blair. He showed her rosy pink and blushing red. She kept those colors in her heart. Aww, how sweet. And this is them. Oh, look at that. Together, Mary and Lee painted rainbows. But it was the Great Depression, and people were poor. No one was buying rainbows. That is, except one place. Mary landed a job at Walt Disney Studios in Hollywood Land. That's what it was known at the time. Well, actually, the studio was called Walt Disney Productions, but no matter. One of the first women ever to be hired. See, what did I tell you? Finally, a place for her colors to run and dance and play as they pleased. Seriously, the illustrator did a great job drawing what these people looked like based on what they actually looked like in real life. She even got Walt Disney's trademark mustache. Oh. But on her first day of work, the men in charge didn't want to talk about Cerulina or Celadon or Cerise. They were only interested in black and white. You see, most animated shorts in the early 1930s were in black and white. The first colored cartoon by Disney did not come out until 1932, Flowers and Trees. But that's another story. Mary was told to follow the rules. I'd have to look at pictures of the Disney artists of the 1930s and 1940s to point out who is who, but I'll do that some other time. She tried, but her colors were too vivid, too wild. When Mary turned in her work, all her ideas were rejected. And it's not because she was a woman, it was because of the fact that her artwork was different from everybody else. Not really the Disney style, so to say. Twinkling emerald skies? The men turned them blue. Magenta horses that could fly? The men made them brown and put them in a stable. Peach giraffes with tangerine spots. Her bosses just shook their heads. They didn't know what to make of her art. Look, there's Alice from Alice in Wonderland. The irony is, it seems that despite animation allowing you to run wild with imagination, it seems like these people were very conservative in the beginning. Go figure. That's well, not anymore. Thank God for that. But Walt, the man who owned the company, did. Aha! At least someone cared. He loved her colors so much, he asked Mary to join him on a trip to South America to meet some new ones. And this is where they got inspiration for Saludos Amigos and The Three Caballeros, which were 2 of the 6 package films made between Bambi and Cinderella. Look at those beautiful colors. The other 4 made at the time were Make Mine Music, Fun and Fancy Free, Melody Time, and my favorite, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. Well, that's another story. Seriously, these are beautiful colors. Anyways. Oh, Mary delighted in the colors of Brazil, Argentina, and Peru. She worked hard to capture the vibrant scenery. When it was time to go home, Mary's bags burst with fuchsia, teal, aquamarine, indigo, lime green, and banana yellow. Look at these colors. Makes me want to visit South America as well. One of these days. After Mary returned to Disney, her concept art for the studio's upcoming films grew even more adventurous, as she drew upon the eye-popping shades she'd seen in South America. Cinderella needed a teal pumpkin coach. The caterpillar in Alice in Wonderland could only be aquamarine. And the mermaids in Peter Pan simply had to be lime green. And I should probably note, Mary Blair's concept art greatly inspired films of the early 1950s like Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, and especially Peter Pan. She was really influential. This time, some of Mary's ideas were accepted. Obviously, because, like I said, they helped set the art style for certain Disney movies. But most of her art was still considered too modern, too abstract, and just not right. Mary's colors encouraged her to leave the men with their black lines and strict rules. So she did. And it is true. After Peter Pan, Mary Blair resigned from Disney. Mary quickly found new work designing advertisements, illustrating picture books for children, and creating sets for plays and television commercials. She enjoyed the freedom of these new jobs. But Mary missed Walt. Then one day, out of the blue... I know what this is about. Her phone rang. It was Walt. "Mary, I have a project for you. I need your wild and beautiful colors," his voice boomed. Walt explained his idea to build a magical ride that would teach people about cultures from around the world. The ride had to be full of color, which meant there was only one person for the job. "Mary, you know about colors I've never even heard of before." Mary smiled. And then she frowned as she remembered the rules and the lines and the men in charge who didn't understand her colors or her style of art. There was only one way to answer. Take a lucky guess. "Yes," said Mary. But her yes came with a condition. This time, Mary wanted to be the one in charge. Walt welcomed her aboard. Mary's paint seemed to sparkle when she hung up the phone. She had never been to places like China or Morocco or Kathmandu. Where is that place? But her colors had. Sitting down to work, she squeezed out dabs of paint. Lemon yellow, aquamarine, and azure, mauve, taupe, and tangerine, russet, sienna, and steel gray, celadon, cerulean, cerise, magenta, teal, indigo, and emerald shined from her palette. And when she picked up her brush, the colors Mary had so carefully collected all her life took her on a trip around the globe. And as you can see, these are the exact same designs they used for the famous ride, It's a Small World. The first one was from 1964 at Disneyland. I've been to the one at Walt Disney World. I think it's the same thing. When the work was done and the ride opened, people gasped in awe. It's a Small World was a sensation. When it was Mary's turn to take the ride, she leaned back in the boat and let her colors wash over her. It was a world of laughter, a world of smiles, and color, color, color everywhere. This, at last, was Mary's world. The end. Oh, there's an author's note, too. Looking back, we're pretty sure it was during a conversation about It's a Small World when we realized our mutual admiration for the art and designs of Mary Blair. While her whimsically colorful style, found everywhere from classic Disney films to little golden books, is easy to recognize, not many people recognize her name. Well, that's a shame. And even fewer know about Mary Blair's determination to use her visionary talent to the fullest. When Mary began working for Walt Disney Productions in 1940, her job was to create preliminary sketches to guide the look and feel of the studio's animated films. Her sketches were handed off to the 9 Old Men, the nickname for Disney's core group of supervising animators, or directing animators as they were called at the time, who created some of Disney's first major works, including Snow White, and pioneered many of the rules and guiding principles of animation that are still in use today. You've probably heard about them. They were Eric Larson, Milt Kahl, Frank Thomas, John Lounsbury, Ward Kimball, Ollie Johnston, Mark Davis, Les Clark, and Wolfgang Reitherman. Interestingly, the 9 of them, along with a 10th animator named Norm Ferguson, all worked together as directing animators on the 3 films Mary Blair had particular inspiration on, art style-wise, that I mentioned earlier. Anyways, Mary drafted sketches for Dumbo, an early version of Lady and the Tramp, and a sequel to Fantasia that was never produced. Her supervisors rejected virtually all of her colorful and modern designs. After one frustrating year on the job, Mary quit. However, in the brief time she was there, Mary made a true friend at Walt Disney Productions. Walt Disney himself. Walt was so impressed with her colorful style that he invited Mary to join El Grupo, the select group of Disney illustrators who toured and sketched in South America in 1941 as part of a U.S. Goodwill tour. Mary rejoined Walt Disney Productions as an art director upon her return from the tour. She worked on The Three Caballeros, a film inspired by the animator strip. The other one was Saludos Amigos. This time, Mary's concept sketches, a playful little train chugging its way through a vibrantly shaded jungle, animated by Les Clark, made it onto the big screen. Heartened by the success, Mary continued on, and throughout a handful of her breathtaking designs were incorporated into classic films like Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, and Peter Pan. Once again, most of Mary's ideas were considered too abstract, and even too colorful. What's wrong? Well, what's wrong with that, dare I ask? When Mary decided to leave Walt Disney Productions again in 1953, she had little trouble finding more work. Moving to New York, Mary became an in-demand commercial artist, Broadway set designer, and picture book illustrator. Her little golden book, I Can Fly by Ruth Cross, is still in print today. Mary had become a very busy artist, but when Walt called her up to design that special ride for the 1964 New York World Fair, she couldn't refuse this incredible offer. Finally free to create the art she wanted, Mary's palette overflowed. As fellow Disney artist Rolly Crump, an assistant on the It's a Small World project, said, I don't think she mixed paint very much. She used all and every color. That's the thing I learned from her. Don't be afraid of color, Rolly. When Mary Blair died in 1978 at the age of 67, it seemed like her art would end up as a footnote in the history of Walt Disney Productions. This began to change as emerging animators rediscovered Disney's golden age, and with it, Mary Blair. In 1991, Mary Blair was named a Disney legend, and in 2011, a Google Doodle was published honoring what would have been Mary's 100th birthday. In 2014, the Walt Disney Family Museum hosted the first retrospective of her work. As room after colorful room burst with Mary's joyful, exuberant work, it became clear what Mary had created during her lifetime. Pure magic. Pure Disney magic. And here's a picture of Mary and Lee Blair doing sketches in Brazil in the early 1940s. The end. I hope you'll enjoy it. And look up, and in case any of you are wondering about who Mary Blair is after hearing this book, look her name up. Take a look at some of her concept art, particularly for Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, and Peter Pan. It's pretty incredible and colorful. But anyways, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time on Story Time with Eric Zimmer.